There's a certain kind of heartbreak you don't even admit out loud, the kind that sits quietly in your chest when you realize you've been holding on to someone who never really held you back. It's strange how someone who never fully showed up can still take up so much space inside your mind. You wake up thinking about them, you fall asleep replaying old conversations, and somewhere in between, you keep hoping they'll suddenly decide you were worth choosing. And it hurts in a way that's hard to explain because deep down you know they were never good for you, yet something in you kept reaching anyway. Like your heart was searching for something it lost long before they ever appeared. It doesn't feel like chasing at first. It feels like understanding. It feels like patience. It feels like maybe they're going through something. Maybe they need time. Maybe they just need someone who won't give up on them. And so you stay. You stay through mixed signals. You stay through uncertainty. You stay through the silent distance they never explain. And every time they pull away, you hold on a little tighter, telling yourself that if you can just love them right, if you can just make them feel safe, maybe this time they'll finally choose you. But when you look deeper, when you sit alone with your own thoughts long enough, you start to realize something you didn't want to see. You weren't chasing them because they were special. You were chasing them because they awakened a familiar ache inside you, an ache you've known for years. It's the same ache that comes from wanting someone who was never fully emotionally available to you before, the same ache that whispers, maybe if I prove myself this time, maybe if I give more, care more, wait longer, maybe this wound will finally close. And no one tells you how easy it is to confuse healing with attachment, how easy it is to mistake emotional hunger for love. When someone doesn't choose you, it creates a space inside you that feels unfinished, like a sentence someone walked away from before they could finish it. And the heart hates unfinished stories. So your mind starts creating reasons, creating possibilities, creating fantasies where they come back and finally see your worth. And the truth is, you don't fall in love with the person, you fall in love with the version of them your hope created. You fall in love with the moments they were soft, the moments they let you in, the moments they almost chose you. It's the almost that keeps you stuck. The almost becomes the hook your heart hangs itself on. And every time they return with just enough warmth to pull you back in, the cycle begins again. They never stay long enough for your soul to rest, but never leave long enough for your heart to heal. So you keep existing in this emotional in-between space where nothing ever becomes real, but nothing ever fully ends either. It wears you down slowly, quietly, like water dripping on stone. You stop being yourself. You start shrinking your needs. You start accepting less than the bare minimum because you've convinced yourself that even their crumbs mean something. You call it connection, but deep down, you know you've been starving. And the hardest part is realizing how much of yourself you gave away in moments when they weren't even thinking about you. How much emotion you carried alone. How many nights you cried over someone who slept peacefully, unaware of the damage their inconsistency caused. And instead of getting angry, you blamed yourself. You asked what was wrong with you. You asked why you weren't enough. You asked why you kept loving someone who made you feel invisible. But you never stopped to ask if maybe the problem wasn't your worth. Maybe the problem was the people you've learned to feel drawn to. Because when you've been trained by life to earn love, you don't notice when someone makes you fight for it. When you've grown up thinking affection is unpredictable, consistency feels unfamiliar. When your heart learned to settle for emotional crumbs, real love feels overwhelming. So you gravitate toward what feels familiar, not what feels healthy. And that familiarity is the trap that keeps you chasing someone who can't meet you. You don't chase them because they're right. You chase them because they fit the shape of an old wound. But something changes when you finally let yourself see the truth. Not the truth you hoped for, not the truth you romanticized, but the real truth. The truth that they never chose you. Not because you weren't worthy, but because they were never capable. They were never ready. They were never willing. And no amount of loving someone can teach them how to love you back. You start noticing the spaces where they failed to show up. You start noticing the efforts that only came from your side. You start noticing how heavy it felt to carry all the emotional weight alone. And slowly, a different kind of ache settles in. Not the ache of wanting them, but the ache of realizing how long you abandoned yourself just to feel chosen. You see the version of you who stayed, who waited, who kept hoping. You see how tired that version of you was, how lonely, how soft-hearted, and something inside you softens because you realize it wasn't stupidity, it wasn't weakness, it wasn't desperation, it was love. It was your capacity to care. It was the part of you that still believed people can be better than their wounds. You weren't wrong for loving them. You were wrong for thinking they could love you the same way. And when that truth finally sinks in, something inside you begins to shift. The chase loses its meaning. The hope loses its glow. The fantasy loses its shine. You begin to see them as they are, not as the story you built around them. And with that clarity comes a strange, unexpected peace. You stop waiting for their message. You stop checking your phone. You stop overthinking the silence. You stop giving someone access to parts of you they never earned. It's not that the love disappears. It just stops running your life. And one day, without even planning it, you will wake up and your heart will feel a little lighter. You'll breathe a little easier. You'll feel a little more yourself. And you'll realize that walking away wasn't losing them, it was returning to you. You'll realize that the person you were chasing wasn't your soulmate, they were your lesson. A lesson in self-worth, a lesson in boundaries, a lesson in letting go of people who don't show up for you. You'll realize that you never needed them to choose you to feel worthy. You just needed to choose yourself again. And someday, without warning, someone will come into your life who doesn't make you guess, who doesn't make you chase, who doesn't make you question whether you matter. And it will feel strange at first because you're not used to that kind of love. But over time, you'll realize this is what love was always supposed to feel like. Safe, steady, clear. You'll learn that the right person doesn't confuse your heart. They don't disappear. They don't make you fight for scraps. They meet you with the same energy you give, and it feels almost surreal after everything you've been through. And maybe one day, you'll look back at the person you once chased and thank life for not letting them choose you. Because if they had, you would have never learned your worth. You would have never healed. You would have never become the version of yourself you're growing into now. A version who knows what they deserve. A version who doesn't beg for love. A version who chooses peace over chaos. A version who doesn't run after anyone who walks away. And if you feel this in your chest, if it opens something quiet inside you, if it made you remember the parts you tried to forget, stay close to this feeling. Because it's the beginning of your healing. And if you and I are anything alike and you want to keep walking this path with me, then subscribe.